lot of it is tied in with mental health awareness.
Mm.
It is tied in with that. So, folks, please be aware, and it's something that underdiagnosed, underreported, and a lot of people don't want to admit that they are going through some issues, because of the stigma. Uh,
Mm.
oh, if I do this, then people think I'm crazy. No, that's not it. You may just need the help. So you need to reach out and ask someone. We can touch on the state of the nation.
Mm.
Well, we can probably sum this up in a couple of words as far as the state of the nation is concerned. And it's something
Right.
that I wouldn't want to air or say on a family show. Black
Mm.
education. We can touch upon that because it's important that our children get a proper education. And there's a lot that's going on right now that I would say, I don't know what, not necessarily roadblocks, but they could be, let's say, distractions. Um, and we're getting that as far, and then the vaccines. How does education and vaccines? Well, how is that? How is there a tie there? Well, if you've been watching the news at all lately, you have a bunch of anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers that have been harassing parents and children going to school. These parents
Mm.
really want their children to go to school. They want their kids to be safe. They want their kids to be masked and vaccinated. But then you have a certain group of people, and not only do they want to risk the lives of themselves and their children and loved ones, but they really don't care about anybody else as long as they get what they want. And I really don't understand
Mm.
because they're talking about freedom. Well, freedom means that I have a choice. I'm free to make a choice for myself. If I want to
Mm.
take a vaccine, that's my choice. If I want to wear a mask, that is my choice. I can't see being chastised because I want to protect myself and my family and the rest of the community. It's some
Mhm.
lunacy going on, and perhaps Dr. Sims, you have a take on that, and Dr. Demery, from a spiritual standpoint, perhaps you can share something. Then, and just being an observant person, um, and in your capacity, I'm sure you have a take on that. And
Mhm.
then, at the bulk of the show, we'll be talking about Black Wall Street or
Mhm.
Black Wall Streets. A lot of
Mm.
people are familiar with the one that's in Oklahoma, but did you know that I saw somewhere that there were over 128 going
Mm.
back to the early 1900s, over 128. So
Mm.
let's do that. And I want you to think about this for a second. 128 Black Wall Streets around the country. There is only one in New York right now. There's one in San Francisco. I think there's one in Chicago. Well, there are firms around. Just like the stock exchange in New York. There too. There's the NY. The let's see. I have a trophy over here for one too. The New York Stock Exchange and also the American Stock Exchange. You got the Chicago Board of Options in Chicago. There's a stock exchange in San Francisco. A lot of people don't know that. And there are a
Mm.
few others around the country. But there were over 128 Black Wall Streets. Think about that today, and what if you can look at it in terms of growth and think that way things have grown over the years. Look how the dollar has increased in value. Like a dollar back in the 1920s is worth how much now? Okay, maybe $10,000. So if you think about the magnitude of that, and if these institutions were allowed to progress and thrive in the pace that they were going, who knows how big and how huge that will be. We're talking about economics. We're talking about developments. We're talking about so many things that our ancestors had tried to provide. That if you can see how that would have paid off today. And then there's a couple of stories too that I want to talk about, and one happens to be I spoke to Dr. Sims about this, and this is Bruce's Beach. Now, Reverend Demery may know about Bruce's Beach. Well, actually, that's part of Manhattan Beach. It was Bruce's Beach, which was black owned.
Mm.
And over 5 days now, I think it's been 5 days ago, that Governor Gavin Newsom signed over to this land to be returned to the rightful owners, which who happen to be black.
Well,
Now,
that's a blessing.
anyone knows anything about California, the beaches here, they are that's great beaches, and the property there, it is. I mean, is out of this world. The average person couldn't live in a beach area. Okay, the price tags are just that high, and the homes really aren't that fabulous.
Mm,
I remember being
Indeed.
down on Balboa Island one year. Well, this is 20 years ago,
mm,
and this was right there, about right on the beach. There was this shack. I mean, they were houses, lines of houses, and they all weren't that well kept. And this was a shack. I am serious about that. It couldn't have been more about 1,100 feet, square feet. 11,
mm,
1,200, 1,300. That's not a big house, okay?
mm.
This thing was going for $500,000, and this is over 20 years ago.
Stop
See,
it.
no, I am not. Look, this is no joke. Okay,
I don't
California
know
is
how
no
y'all
joke.
do anything in California. How do you buy a house? How do you have a car? How do you get
You
food
can't do
there?
nothing but sit there and look silly. No, I'm teasing.
Well, look, let me answer that with great difficulty.
It sounds like
Very much
it. I
so.
mean, why have
Very much so.
and people keep moving there? Why?
I don't know.
No, they're moving out of here. They're moving out of
Oh
here,
yeah,
and a lot of them are moving out.
a
Wow.
lot of moving out there, moving to Texas. But guess what? Then when
Mm,
they get to Texas, find out that
Texas is,
Texas say, "Oh, you clowns from California coming here, we jacking up our prices." And
and that's
really?
what they've done.
that's exactly what's
Wow.
going on. I just have a friend who
Wow.
just he has a huge contract in Houston, and he
Mm,
has a home here, but it was approved for him. It was worth it for him to purchase another home in Houston. And he said,
mm,
"Man, you aren't gonna believe it." He said, "God thought I was getting a bargain." He said,
mm.
I bought this house here, and the prices here are just going up because they realize that the money's coming from California, so let's charge them. Come on,
Wow.
let's do it.
They getting text.
He said,
Yeah.
matter of fact, they are. He said, by the time he said your house might be a little bit cheaper, but guess what? Everything else is jacked up, so they will get their
Indeed.
money one way or the other. So it's pretty
Wow.
amazing, folks. Now, but like I said, we could talk. Let's talk about this. Let's see. We this other stuff, mental health. We've covered that. Oh, by the way, I want to thank Sister Sandra Demery also for coming
Mhm.
on with us for 2 weeks. We did part one and part two of
Mhm.
it was mental health awareness because this is the month for it. And we've been talking about domestic violence, the devastating effects of domestic violence, And so
Mhm.
we're going to have Sister Demery if she'd be so kind to come back this month. Dr. Demery, I'm sure if Sister Demery is listening, if not, just let her know that I will be in contact with her because that is something that is it's critical for us. It's critical. All right.
Right. Right.
We talk about
And
state of
don't wear her out, William. I mean, I'm working with her to be on Teen Talk Truth and Eating as an Act Worship Ministry. Don't wear the woman out, okay?
That's why we
We are
talk.
And then too,
trying
I wanted, and then too, I want her on
exactly.
with the women on my
Share,
show. So
Yeah.
come on,
share.
Oh,
thank
well,
you.
you two are trying to steal my
Don't be
guests. I mean, what's going
greedy.
on?
No, don't
hold,
be
hold,
your
hold,
guess.
hold,
That's
hold
Dr.
on,
Demery right.
hold
Hold
on.
on.
I mean, do
She,
you know
she
how
is
many
okay.
guests?
She can handle the task, so she's okay, William.
She's all
All
right,
right,
all
then.
right.
See, all right.
And she's looking forward to being on your show.
That's
Good,
exactly right. You see, these things,
good.
Dr.
All
Dim, they're
right,
trying to
Dr.
start
Demery.
something all the
Gotcha.
time.
All I know is you poach guests all the time. As a matter of fact, you never did call the lady for the gospel explosion, did you?
Uh-uh.
Ooh.
The one that you said was it was your favorite
I,
eating as an active worship ministry
yes,
show.
she is. I have. I must do that.
See,
I do. I do
see,
take blame for that. And but I
uh-huh.
will. I will
Yeah.
call. Yeah. Okay. You had to call me out on live radio, didn't you?
Well,
Yeah. I
you
know.
started it. You said we were stealing your guest. You how many times over the years have you taken guests from eating as
I
an active
lost
worship
count.
ministry? See, thank you,
All right.
thank you.
I don't remember.
I
And-
know
and-
you don't.
yeah.
I
Oh,
know
Okay.
now
you.
you have
I
amnesia,
know.
right?
I know you don't.
And
We.
what they say when they get on the
Man,
witness stand? I don't recollect. Something
I
like
don't
no, I take the
recall.
I don't
fifth. I
recall.
don't recall.
It wasn't me, Your Honor.
Right, right. Don't believe the camera. Don't
I don't
believe.
believe the camera.
Yeah, it's not what it is. And that's what I call intentional Amnesia. Intentional.
Right. I don't know who that
Yeah.
is.
I have no idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea at all. Oh, yeah. And then if we have time, we're going to get and I've got some clips from Brother Jemani Redway from myblackhistorycalendar.com. I absolutely love what this brother does. It is a brilliant collective of icons, past and present. Just great information. And the segment is what I really like about it. And such a great learning tool. It's only like 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes long. Someone 4, 5, 6 minutes, seven at the longest. So it gives you instead of trying to eat the whole banana, you get a chance to take it in little chunks there. And so I think it's a
Okay.
great learning tool, no matter what age. Really, no matter what age. On June 1st, 1921, white riders looted and burned all black Greenwood neighborhood, the all black Greenwood neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, known as Black Wall Street. Angry at the economic success, let's put a line right under that. They were angry because black people were uh, uh, providing. They were on the way up. They were being successful. They were building for themselves, right? So instead of them building their own stuff, they got upset and decided to burn down Black Wall Street in the area, which been known angry at the economic success of blacks in the area. Which became known as Black Wall Street because of the number of successful businesses and wealthy black inhabitants. Okay. Now you think about the time, 1920. Okay. And think about that in respect to when slavery supposedly ended. All right. White Tulsans accused a black man of raping a girl and attacked the area. And that was proven to be debunked later on, while white citizens used dynamite and planes to bomb the city, leaving more than 8,000 people homeless. Eyewitness accounts charge that the vast majority of people killed estimates range from 80 to 300. From 80 to 300. So you see, many records were destroyed. They don't know exactly how many it was. Uh, I don't know. Then if they don't know with 80 to 300, how do we know it wasn't more? We don't. Okay, we just have to go by that between 80 and 300 died because the city's law enforcement officers deputized every able bodied white man and handed out weapons from the city's armory. There's no official death toll. The most historians agreed that the count was around 250 because many African Americans were buried in mass graves, and while others fled the city. Tulsa's Black Wall Street is often pointed to as the singular example uh, of Black economic empowerment and how Black communities can create their own. Let's put a line under that opportunity and wealth. But it's important to know that Tulsa's Greenwood neighborhood is not is not the only historical example of the power and importance of African American economic self determination. It might not even be the most significant. See, folks, we get a little bit, right? You get a little bit of history. But now I'm going to ask panel a question, and then you guys can jump right on in on this because there's more to come. But again, how often do we talk about the importance of empowerment, the importance of an encouraging word? You hear so much about affirmations. I can, I will, I'm great, I am wonderful, I am perfectly made. God made me. I mean, just things like how important is that? So put that in relation to you knowing that your great grandfather was an entrepreneur. Your great grandfather had built this, or your great and your grandmother and your ancestors built these things, and they did it with their own hands, and they designed this with their own minds. To a child, that means the world. Oh, they look like me. They are exactly like me. I came from them. They did it. I can do it too. So anyway, I'm gonna toss this over to Ann. Your take.
Well, before I start, I need to point out that you asked the question about mask. at the beginning, and you said you wanted Dr. Sims to answer and Reverend Dimmer to answer, and we didn't talk about the mask.
Okay.
We
Well,
moved on to this. But
I-
no. We're gonna do
And we
that at
need
the
to talk
end.
about the
We're gonna do
math
that
because
at
it's
the
fresh
end
in my
now,
mind.
because now we're on this. I just want to point out, put a
Okay.
little paper clip there, and we'll get back to those questions at
yeah.
the end.
Okay, we can do this.
Okay, thank you. Now, as far as the Black Wall Street
Mhm.
massacre of 1921, you started hearing about it when it got close to the anniversary. So I remember it circulating for the first time that I'd heard about it on Facebook. And I
Hmm.
was reading, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had never heard of this." And Tulsa is so close to Arkansas. I have a family member there, so we've gone there, and I went there when I was in law school for some sorority functions, a sorority function we had. And so to know that something like that happened so close, but then there are lots of other stories that as William mentioned, like for instance, Andre and I were watching a documentary a few years ago about Little Rock. Little Rock had an economic district for Black people that was similar to the quote unquote Black Wall Street. It was basically Ninth Street here in Little Rock, and it was a financial hub for Black people. A lot of well-to-do, financially wealthy African Americans had businesses on that street, and a lot of African Americans resettled in this area because they thought Arkansas was less racist than a lot of the other southern states. They thought it would be a little bit more liberal, so to speak. And the way that they put a stop to it was brutal and horrific. They murdered an African American man and dismembered him. And one person, according to the documentary, was standing in the intersection of that street using the man's arms to direct traffic. It was absolutely horrifying to hear that. Then later on, they decided to run an interstate right through the heart of that area to break up the neighborhood and the affluent people there. So Ninth Street is still there, but there's an interstate I-630 running right down the middle of it. So the neighborhoods are separated, of course, because you got this 6-lane freeway running down the middle of the city now. So it's amazing when you hear, on the one hand, the racists make these unfounded, untrue, evil accusations about African American people being lazy, African American people not being intelligent, African American people not striving to do better. And then on the other hand, when you have proof positive that from the very beginning, in fact, because one little known fact is that not all African American people were enslaved here in America. Some people were free from the very beginning and never knew slavery. And they were very intelligent. They thrived. A lot of those communities did. People like Benjamin Banneker. People don't know those particular stories, but you have that side of the coin where you have people who have done very well, communities that have done very well, and even though you've got um, this upstanding citizen or these upstanding citizens living the type of lives that you would want your citizens to live. They're not violent. They're intelligent. They're well-to-do. They're educated, and you kill these people. So there, it just goes to show that racism isn't about intelligence. Racism isn't about economics. Racism is strictly about hatred of someone who does not look like you. That's the bottom line. So it doesn't matter if you have a person who is a law-abiding citizen or one who is not. If you have a person who does not like the color of that person's skin, then they are subject to be biased against that person. They're subject to discriminate against that person, and they're subject to do some incredibly evil acts towards that person or group of people because of the color of their skin. Nobody's saying
Dr.
anything.
Sims?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was listening to Anne, and it was something because I was reminiscing on this very thing last night, and I had to kind of chuckle a little bit because it's amazing how they did not want this. And I think, William, you and I talked about that. They didn't want to learn how to read because when we grasp things that will empower us,
Mm,
we're talking about being empowered, then guess what? We'll understand what direction they're headed into and what they're trying to keep us from. And so my thing is power, knowledge is power, period.
mm,
And they understand that. And so as long as they could keep us down as Afro Americans, then guess what? They were able to control us. If you know, and my thing is this is that I had to kind of chuckle. And my mind was going like over to the left side here. It's amazing now how you have some who are saying that what happened during the slavery time, what's happening did during the course of our culture through some of our sick white brothers and sisters, um, they consider as a normacy, and it's not normal. But now that it's being taught, I have some. I don't know if you all noticed. There's some uprisings where they're telling us that whatever is being taught is not valid. So they're trying to make you think that whatever we're learning
mm,
in our culture, what's happened to our culture down through the eons of time, that it's false information. Well, how can you say it's false information when it's still going on? It's just
mm,
amazing to me. And they want people to think that they're ignorant. And so this is what they bank their power off of,
mhm,
people's ignorance. And so it's really offensive to me, that they would look at me and call me yet ignorant, and I see clearly. You understand? And so they will make a delusional picture about what we are experiencing, what we have experienced, and make it to be fictitious. And it is not. And so the thing is that I too, and I might be off the market because my mind was going the other way, and while you were talking, but I'm so
mm,
disgusted because what my knowledge has given me the sense of freedom that I can think for myself. I can do what I want to do. I can put out the old and bring in the good. Okay. And so it gives me a choice. And William, you talked about empowerment. That gives me the power to take control of my life without somebody dictating to me, without keeping me in the past. And I'm not going to remain in the past. And it is very, very interesting that that's where they want, because, and I heard Dr. Demery said, because they're losing their ground of control. And I think in one of our previous conversations, they are losing their power and control. And they realize now that they're outnumbered because our cultures are so diverse, you see. And it's no one supreme race as we've been fed back through our ignorance. And so they are not liking to lose that kind of control. And that's where knowledge has empowered us so that we can make our own decisions. Now, on the Wall Street issue, and I kind of chuckled on that. I said, it's amazing how they don't want us to have anything, but they'll talk about us like a dog. Say on, Dr. Sim, it's real talk. They'll tell everybody we're lazy, we're ignorant, we don't do anything. But how come when I look through history, we are creative, okay? We are survivors, we're resilient, okay? Even when I think I told you this, when even when we weren't educated, as they say, didn't know how to read, but we know how to invent because God gave us that knowledge, and that's a gift. Invent things. But what did they do? They took that, okay, I'm just saying, and made it theirs. And then on Wall Street, they don't want us to be, what is the word that I'm using? Non reliant on them. They don't want us to be independent. So, therefore, what do? Some of our sick brothers and sisters who are greedy for power, they'll go in, and I find it really awesome, difficult for me to realize, why was it just the African Americans that they want to keep down like that? What was the purpose? And I've often asked that question. What is the purpose? They'll make us look like we are the worst people. And you said something about raping and what have you. When I look down in history, we've been raped when we were brought over on the ship. Come on now. Okay. From that time, but they don't want people to know how vile they are. Now they're saying what we're talking about today is not true. You must think people are crazy and stupid and blind, because truth is what it is and it's actual facts. And so I have an issue with the delusional pictures that are being painted. And I really believe it's coming to a time where people, because of their knowledge, they are gaining that sense of power and they're making a stand for what is rightfully theirs. Uh oh.
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
no, no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. No, Dr. Demery, your take, please.
Well, as I was listening to Ann and Dr. Sims talk, a scripture comes to mind out of many that could be used, but this is one that comes to mind. Um, when Jesus was talking to Peter, he told Peter that he sought to sift him like sand.
Mm.
And
Right.
there's another text that comes to mind. It says that Satan is like a raging lion, a roaring lion, going to and
Hmm.
fro to seek whom he can destroy. And
Amen.
theologically, I don't want it to sound theologically racist when I say this, but it is a
Right.
fact that Simon the Cyrene carried the cross of Jesus. Simon the Cyrene
Right.
was a black man. So if we think for a
Hmm.
moment, just from a foundational theological standpoint, that we are not going to suffer like Jesus suffered, if we're not going to suffer like the saints suffered, we are sadly mistaken. Now, I'm not making excuses for the things that have happened, but we bear the cross of Jesus and
Mm.
we bear some of that
Hmm.
blood and sweat and turmoil, and that's ingrained in our history, ingrained in our DNA, ingrained in who we are, because we are cross bearers
Mm.
and we are part of that process that Satan seeks to destroy us. And like Dr. Sims was saying, we have to be strong to overcome it and see it for what it is. Because once you see what the problem is, then you can better deal with it. And so, from a theological standpoint, Satan seeks us out more than anybody else because we were the first race on the earth. And Satan seeks to destroy us because he knows what we can become. And he knows that we're the closest thing that look like Jesus. Now, I
Mm.
don't
Mm,
want to get people upset to say that, well, Jesus wasn't black.
Ooh.
Yes, he was.
Amen.
that's
Jesus
Come
was a
on.
dark
Real
skinned
talk. Come on.
Jew. And so if we
Amen.
don't think that we're not going to suffer and have anguish, we are sadly mistaken. But now that we know that, we use that wisdom and knowledge to combat everything we do. And if any people need to be more spiritual, we need to
Jesus.
be.
Indeed.
We
Amen.
need to be.
Amen.
We need to
Indeed.
be more confident in the fact that we trace our bloodline, trace our heritage, trace our DNA back to Jesus and back to the very fact that we must suffer because Satan seeks to spend all of his energy on attacking us. Just one last example. When Charles Manson, in the book that was written about that whole mess, Helter
Mm.
Skelter. It was
Hmm.
to cause a race riot. That's what the
Mm.
book
Mm.
Helter Skelter was a lot. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's
Mm.
what it was about. That was his intent because he wanted to prove when the La Biancas were murdered that it was black people that did it, and he was trying to cause a race riot. So
mm,
we
Mm.
have to be very wise and realize from a spiritual standpoint. There's many other points that can be brought up, like William said, the economic and the some of the social issues. But from a spiritual standpoint, we have to realize that we are a subjugated people and we have to rise above the subjugation and get even closer to God and be more spiritual. And once we do that, we're going to combat a lot of our problems and stop killing ourselves. The number
Hmm.
one cause of a black man that dies in this country is by another black man. That is a shame. That
Mm.
is a travesty.
Mm.
mhm.
We have to rise above that madness because we are part of the madness, and we
Mm.
have to rise above all of that.
You understand, and
Mm.
then you have to also understand the trick that's being played here, and divide and conquer.
That part.
All right. All
Divide
right.
That part.
and conquer. And
Amen.
see, if you put enough in someone's head that you nope, no good, can't make it, not going to make it, all right, worthless, and then you don't have the economic stability, you don't have the job security, you don't have the home or anything like that, you don't have the education, then you tend to start believing. You start believing these lies because of the situation that you've been placed in. Both you, Dr. Dimmer and Dr. Sims, touched on something, and it had, and I'm gonna paraphrase it together here, and it all has to do with if you, they know. See, they already know. They know that we're more intelligent than we know.
Come
Mm.
on.
Okay, I'm telling you,
That's
and
right.
they know what we would do with an education. They
Indeed.
know
Amen.
what we
Amen.
would do with economic empowerment. They already know. That's
Amen.
why they burn down these Wall Streets. You see.
Indeed.
See,
Amen.
you have to understand this. You really have to understand this. Who built the White House, as a matter of fact? Who built the infrastructure in
Say
this
on.
country? Who did
Mm-hmm.
that? Who built the pyramids?
Mm.
Okay. We can go all the way back. Come on. We
Come
talk about
on.
anything from archaeology to technology. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and anything in between. Any area of human development and human progress, human prosperity, we had a hand in it.
Amen.
In a hand in it.
That's true.
And look, as far as riches are concerned, that and you're talking about rape and pillaging,
Mm.
a country that's been raped and pillaged over the centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the riches in minerals, including oil and diamond. Where is that? That's in
Right.
Africa.
Right.
That's
Wow.
in Africa, isn't it? Of,
Yep.
of course it is. See, we already know, but see what happens is, some of us know. And when we start talking about critical race theory, and I hate that term. I really hate it really bad, because what it should be called is real history.
Yeah, that's
History,
basically what it is. History.
Indeed.
history.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
History.
okay. But they critical race theory. Now, let them have that term. But there are millions and millions that don't want it taught. Don't want it taught. Why?
Right.
It doesn't matter what you call it. They
It
do not
doesn't matter what you
they
call it.
do
You're right.
not want it to be taught in a
Right.
way where the truth is on. What do they say? It makes it seem like we're a racist country. That's because America is
It
a
is a
racist country.
racist
Everybody
country. Come
knows that.
on.
It
It,
really.
everybody know, and you there wouldn't have been protests last summer if we did not know that America is a racist country. And
Say
That's
if you
on.
exactly
really
right.
want it to change,
That's
it starts with knowledge. My people perish for a lack of
Lack
what?
of knowledge.
knowledge.
Knowledge. And you
Yes.
have got to start there. The problem is they don't want it to start there.
Right.
They
Right.
don't want to change the status quo. As a matter of fact, they don't like what's going on, as Reverend Denver pointed out, as it is, and they want to take things backwards. Let's put it that
Right.
way, instead
Uh
of
huh.
moving forward in progress. And it's I'm glad you mentioned, that we need to stop falling for the divide and conquer strategy, because sister, I mean, Dr. Sim said that we have been mistreated so badly. We have. They hate us, but they can't stand a Native American and stole a whole country from
The
them.
whole
Yes,
Now
country.
they
don't get me
did.
wrong.
Come
They have been
on.
on the continent of Africa, raping the continent of Africa, but they couldn't wipe every African off the face of
Stay
Africa.
on.
But how can, I mean, if you walk down the street, do you see a Native American? You got to travel a lot of times to
Right.
get to where you can
Right.
find a Native American. And they used to be all over this land,
Yeah.
all over this land. And slavery was bad for us. It was horrific, the genocide that the Native American people had to endure. And not only that, I mean, we're just now learning that not only in America but in Canada, they were taking their children, indoctrinating them at these schools, and some of the children mysteriously came up dead, and they're finding them in
Yeah.
graves later on. And if you were to even go to Mexico, the history there, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the Spaniards. They were just as bad. I mean, they would test to see if their swords were sharp enough
Y-
by running it through a child. So
Come
you
on.
have
Mm.
um there slaves who didn't just run north, but some ran to the south, to Mexico. And when they got there, the Mexican was like, we don't have
Mm,
any slaves here. And they would give their black brothers and sisters guns, and they fight the slave owners off together.
mm-hmm.
So for us
Yes.
to fall, for the okey doke now, for Native Americans, African Americans, and Hispanic people to want to war against each other now, it's absolute madness. That's
Uh-huh.
dividing and conquering.
Oh,
Because if
absolutely.
anybody ought to be on one accord, it ought to be us. Now, don't get me wrong. We don't all have a perfect relationship. Um, there were some of the Native American tribes. People love to talk about Juneteenth, but Juneteenth really was not the time period or the day that the last of the slaves became free. There were some Native American tribes, like the Cherokee tribe, that assimilated into the white culture and they became slave owners. And so it wasn't until the treaty between America and those Native American nations were signed that the last of the slaves in America actually became free. But you can't get mad at the Native Americans because you had free black people right here in America who had slaves.
Mhm.
Okay, so
And that's true.
and not only that, if you go back across the water, you had some African tribes selling other Africans to the white people so that they can become enslaved. So slavery in and of itself is a horrific stain on humanity as a whole. It's
Mhm.
almost as old as sin itself, and it still goes on today. We just happen to give it a cool name called human trafficking.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It is
And
it's
right, right. And over here in America, we just did the best at maximizing the profitability of the slave trade. I
right.
think that's what happened here. And you're
Hmm.
exactly right. And going back to divide and conquer, just like something that's been perpetrating over the last 4 or 5 years. And that is, and you hear it from the far right, the Republican Party, I'm gonna just say it, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking with blacks and Mexicans, telling the blacks, well, do you know these Mexicans are coming to steal your jobs? Well,
Whose
I don't.
jobs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't remember the last time I picked strawberries. I don't
Right.
remember that. Not for a living anyway. I don't know the last time that I did. And look, if that's the way people survive by doing labor, some labor is harder than others. So I'm not disparaging anyone who does whatever it takes to put food on your table, on your family's table. So it's not that. But I don't remember any Mexican person or anybody else taking a job that I could have had. So
Right.
this is a big lie. You are going back to that other guy that used to be in the White House telling you, oh, no, no. You see him coming across the border? Oh, and then if it's something that's anti his establishment, you don't believe what you saw on TV. You can't believe what you just saw with your own eyes, and you see this thing everywhere. And somebody mentioned something about, oh my God, that name just makes me want to regurgitate. Kellyanne Conway talking about alternative facts. We talk about alternative facts. The first time I heard that, I started screaming. Good thing I live alone because I started screaming. What kind of garbage is this? And
Right.
and I'm saying, how you gonna say that with a straight face? Come on, alternative fact. Well, Dr. Dimmer, when I told Dr. Dimmer and about Dr. Dimmer said that's a lie.
That's all it is. Plain and simple.
Come
She
on,
just lying.
yeah, you can paint it lime green if you want. You can paint it cherry red. It's still a
Man.
Right.
lie.
Right.
And
Right.
throw some sprinkles on
Um,
it if you want to. I don't care. It's still a lie either way you shape it up. Oh my God. The Haiti
you know what,
community.
William? Can I jump in here for a minute? You know what? I,
Sure,
I was
please.
listening to Ann, and I'm listening to you all are talking about the divide and conquer. And they did that. Who was that? Lynch? Was that him that wrote a letter about divide and conquer, keep the blacks against each other, the lighter
Mhm.
blacks against the darker blacks? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so me, I would be considered, and I'm just gonna be real, a Milano.
Mm.
Okay, I can't help that. Now I wasn't. I wasn't, and many of us didn't have the choice of what we look like.
Mm.
Okay. But when we look at history, who diluted our race? I
Uh-oh.
mean, you know what I mean? Let's just be real. Who diluted our race? It wasn't our black brothers. Okay. It was the white brothers, slip, dipping, and tipping. Hello.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And if we look at history, they were raping our women. And the
Mhm.
reason why, and I read this, the more children that our women had was the more that they could put out in the field.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And
Mm.
they did incest with sons having, because they covered their head. I read this. I said, how vile is that?
Mhm.
And they covered her face so she couldn't see who was having sex with her. It was her own grown son
Mm.
having sex with her.
Mm.
And then they did buck busting. They our band was our Bandingo Afro American men. What did they do?
Mm.
They killed their self esteem
Mm.
by having anal sex with them. This is a hardcore lesson here,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't want to realize this. And sometimes we want to sugarcoat this, but these are the things that happen, and that's why I say these brothers. And I heard you, Dr. Demery, we're killing each other because that is being inbred
Mm.
in our generation, that this one don't like you over here. It's a conquer and divide. And then they are accepting the concept of what some of our vile brothers, white brothers and sisters have done to us. Y'all pull your pants up. Anybody listening? Pull your pants up.
Right.
Because if you knew the meaning behind that, you would keep your almost around your neck, okay? If I can say that, because it is a typification
Oh
of
my
being
gosh.
anally raped. Come on here, through the slave days
Mm.
to kill your self-esteem. Y'all can't even run with your pants around your knees if you stole something. I saw
Wow.
that where a brother was stole something, tried, and I know I'm ranting and raving,
Mm.
but it's still the divide and conquer. And so we as a people, we're so easy trying to accept the concept of somebody who don't like
Mm.
us. You understand?
Mm.
Who doesn't care too much about us. And I'm like Dr. Demery, I'm not a racist because my dad taught me to love
Mm.
everybody. There is nobody no special than you are. But because you have some of our white brothers and sisters who think that they are better, that they're the creator of everything,
Mhm.
they hide your talents. Look at the three women they hid about NASA, right? Them women was off the chart. Have y'all seen that movie about these three women? About NASA. Anybody saying anybody? Am I
You're
just talking
breaking
about
up a
myself here?
lot. You're breaking up a lot.
Am I
You are.
breaking up? I don't know what is going on over here, and I'm having trouble with Facebook as well. I don't know if anybody else is,
I'm on
but
Facebook
it is
too.
just a
While you
mess.
do that, I want to give some
It
shout outs if you don't mind while you fix the breaking up. We got Red Haynes. Hello to you, Red Haynes. Lawrence Heilig, how are you? April looks like Hopkins. Thank you for being
yeah,
here. And she says, yes, Afro Americans have. And she said, who is they? Right. Who are we can put it, we can really say who they are. We can point
right.
to them. Now we have video evidence. We got we got
Mm-hmm.
interviews. That's what I used to say. I'm like, you know what? I know this is bad. I know this is horrible, but at least now we have documented proof as to who
Yes.
these people are. You
That's right.
cannot go back into the closet now and say, no, I'm not a racist. I mean,
Right.
the Republican Party has shown its tail.
To put it lightly.
Wow.
Well, they have. I mean, they truly have, and the way that they have become emboldened, the things that they are doing, it's not. I truly believe that it's riled up the Democrats, not the black people, not the Native American people, not the Hispanic people, but the true American people in this country. So much so that even the white folks realize they could be the next George Floyd, they could be the next Breonna Taylor, because if you don't agree with them, they hate you, as evidenced by
Mhm.
your first question, the mask mandates. If you don't agree with them, they're loud, they're violent, they are irrational, unreasonable, and that's the thing about racism. That's the thing that's kind of like the crux of it. It is an irrational, unreasonable type of hatred. It's got to be rooted and grounded in something else, and a lot of it is economics. A lot of it is um, um, what do you call it? Classism. A lot of it is really somebody just needing to feel like they're a little bit better than somebody else, even if their situation is bleak and they're in a bad situation. You just there's it's such a multi systemic problem, that you've got to pull back all these different
Mm-hmm.
layers,
Mm-hmm.
and those different layers start by educating people when they are young. It's amazing what you put into a child and what comes out of the adult. So the quality of what goes into a child, I mean, the quality of the adult is based on what you put into them as children. And I'm not the only one who believes that. For example, William, you mentioned there were other Black Wall Streets. I found
Mm-hmm.
a Time magazine article that says Beyond Tulsa, the historic legacies over and overlooked stories of America's Black Wall Streets.
Mm-hmm.
And it was written by what's this person's name? Looks like, oh, there's a video that goes with it too. Arpita Aniha and Olivia B. Waxman did the video, but it was updated May 29th, 2021. And it says between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, as many as 300 people were killed in one of the deadliest race massacres in U.S. history. Riled up by rumors of a black man raping a young white woman, a white mob burned down the Tulsa, Oklahoma neighborhood of Greenwood, aka Black Wall Street, the affluent commercial and residential neighborhood founded in the city by Black Americans who went west after the Civil War. Now, 100 years after the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, awareness of this American tragedy has grown thanks to the work of activists and descendants of victims, local political support, and depictions in the HBO series Watchmen and Lovecraft Country. I don't know if you guys saw Lovecraft Country, but it was awesome. I hate they canceled it. You got to see it if you haven't watched it. Anyway, but Tulsa's was not the only Black Wall Street. The history of other such districts nationwide is still not widely known beyond their home cities, though they were many. Bronzeville in Chicago, Haiti in Durham, North Carolina, Sweet Auburn in Atlanta, West Ninth Street in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Ferris Street in Jackson, Mississippi. Educators and historians say that students in the U.S. are much more likely to learn about Black Americans being enslaved and living in impoverished neighborhoods, and not enough about centers of Black wealth and success. Learning about that history, too, and the circumstances that undermined Black businesses during these neighborhoods' heydays is key to understanding the obstacles that many BIPOC people today, that face many BIPOC people today. And if I'm not mistaken, that stands for Black Island, Island Pacific, and that type of stuff. Forgive me for butchering the acronym, but that's what they put there and they didn't explain it, and I'm trying to help. The above video explores the history of Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia, which is considered the first Black Wall Street to emerge around the turn of the 20th century. Designed to help safeguard Black Americans' investments and savings, the Freedmen's Bank was incorporated by President Abraham Lincoln in 1865, but it failed in 1874 after white trustees squandered billions of dollars of Black Americans' money on risky ventures and speculation. With the loss of the Freedmen's Bank came the loss of millions of dollars of African American wealth, but also a loss of confidence in the banking system. Historian Shanette Garrett Scott, author of Banking on Freedom, Black Women in U.S. Finance Before the New Deal, told Time in an interview for this video. It also really attuned them to the fact that the belief that they needed to control their own banking institutions. It was during this period after the Civil War and the rise of Jim Crow in the late 19th century and early 20th century that Black Wall Streets first emerged as Black Americans in segregated areas created their own businesses to support their communities. Established in 1871, the Jackson Ward district of Richmond became known as the Harlem of the South. The Southern Aid and Insurance Company, also known as the Southern Aid Life Insurance Company, founded there in 1893, was considered the first Black owned and operated life insurance company. At the center of the success of these institutions in Richmond were entrepreneurs like Reverend William Washington Brown, who went from escaping enslavement during the Civil War to starting a mutual aid society called True Reformers. John Mitchell Jr., the 20 something editor of the Richmond Planet newspaper, which sought to expose lynchings, and Maggie Lena Walker, the first Black woman to be a bank president. In
Mhm.
addition to running a newspaper, a department store, and a life insurance company, she ran the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank from 1903 to 1934. Walker explained her vision for a Black owned bank in 1901 at the annual convention of the Mutual Aid Society that inspired the bank, the Independent Order of St. Luke. First, we need a savings bank, she said. Let us put our monies together. Let us use our money. Let us put our money at the usury among ourselves and reap the benefit ourselves. Let us have a bank that will take the nickels and turn them into dollars. During the Great Depression, Walker's Bank merged with two other banks and became the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company, and was at one point the longest running Black owned bank in the United States until it was acquired in 2005. While
Mhm.
Tussle's Black Wall Street was burned to the ground in 1921, Black Wall Streets like Richmond suffered a slower death, Garrett Scott says of their decline. Jackson Ward's peak ran from right after the Civil War to the Depression, and its decline hastened after World War II due to a combination of redlining, slum clearance, which raised other buildings and entire neighborhoods, and highways developed in the 1960s and 1970s that cut through these areas and enabled drivers to bypass them. The gains of the civil rights movement also created new opportunities for places to live and work outside the neighborhood, exacerbating the decline of Jackson Ward. The kind of ironic, bitter irony is that these roads are also built to move capital and resources and opportunities and businesses out and away from these areas into the suburbs or other parts of the city, says Garrett Scott. In recent years, efforts to support Black owned businesses and financial institutions have aimed to make sure the stories of Black Wall Streets are not forgotten. In March 2021, PayPal created an award named after Maggie Lena Walker to honor trailblazing women doing work that empowers marginalized communities. There have also been efforts to invest in Black controlled financial institutions, given the increased awareness of the long history of discriminatory lending at Wall Street banks over the last century, especially in the last year, as part of the efforts to rebuild trust and renew commitments to racial equality. Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo all announced investments of millions of dollars in minority depository institutions, financial institutions where minorities own most of the stock and hold most of the board of directors seats. And in March 2021, the U.S. Treasury Department announced a $9 billion investment in MDIs and community development financial institutions. In a 2019 report to Congress, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation said MDIs play a unique role in promoting economic viability in minority and underserved neighborhoods. Celebrities have also played a key role in raising the profile of Black owned banks. In 2020, Beyonce released a Black owned business directory called Black Parade. And in the summer of 2016, in the aftermath of a wave of police violence incidents, rapper Killer Mike, during a radio interview, boosted the coffers of MDIs by encouraging Black Americans to transfer their money to Black owned banks. Thousands heeded the call. Now, he's the co founder with civil rights veteran Ambassador Andrew Young of a mobile banking platform called Greenwood. That same summer, to help others make similar moves and in an effort to help close the racial wealth gap, banker Stefan Coward co-founded the organization Bank Black USA, which provides online guides to Black-owned banks, credit cards, credit unions, savings accounts, and loans for homes and small businesses. Site traffic has exploded in the years since the murder of George Floyd, catalyzed the nation reckoning on race relations. We want to be able to bridge the gap when it comes to resources and knowledge, Coward said of his organization's mission. He argues that social media, like the popularity of the hashtag Bank Black has helped amplify the movement in a way that was not able to be done in the civil rights era or in the 90s. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It goes on a little bit further, but I think that gives you a pretty good rundown of the Black Wall Street movement in the past and how
Mhm.
it's trying to be rekindled here, especially in the wake of all of the racial tension that's been going on in the last few years.
You know, it's really amazing, and because I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, I was born
Wow.
and reared there. I went to Maggie Lena Walker High School.
Wow.
I knew
Wow.
about Jackson Ward, which was a Black Wall Street. And let me tell you that ah, the dynamic here, the dichotomy rather. Growing up, I knew about Jackson Ward, but I never knew about it being a Black Wall Street, a Black financial empire, a
Mm,
progressive, and we didn't know that it was not even taught.
wow.
What
Wow.
I knew about Jackson Ward growing up, that it was a very dangerous place to go, because what happened was after they destroyed the black businesses there, they put up projects. Now,
Mm,
you put a whole bunch of people together with no economic prosperity or opportunities there, all right? They can't mobilize except for in their own community, and then there's a shortage there. What do you think is going to happen?
mm,
It's a recipe for disaster. So
right.
what you're going to end up doing, because you're frustrated, you are angry, you're
Mm,
hungry, you're impoverished, you end up fighting one another. It's
mm,
all in the plan if you really, really look at it.
right.
Think about this: lack of education, lack of economic opportunity, a lack of proper housing, lack of food, and you put everybody else in a sardine box, all
Mm,
right, a sardine can, so to speak, which
mm,
are these projects, all right,
mm.
and you look at the way they were structured. They don't look like regular. They look like just actually they look like prison buildings
They
without the
Wow.
bars.
do.
If you
Yes,
look at
they
a project,
do.
they are made out of block walls. You go on the inside of these
Yes.
places. There is painted over cinder block. You don't have
Wow.
uh, um,
Right.
um, you don't have wallpaper on there, or you don't have anything else on the wall there. You don't have sheetrock that's painted beautiful colors and stuff like that. You have uh, cinder blocks that are painted, and a
Mm,
lot of times, guess what? It's gray.
mm,
Now,
Mhm.
folks, think about it. See, everything has a reason. We
mm,
talked about sounds. We talked about music. We're yet to talk about colors and how
mm.
colors impact you. All right.
Wow. Come
Think
on.
about the colors, and I'm sure you might even know what the inside of a jail looks like as far as the colors is concerned. They are maybe a pea green, so a depressing color. All right,
Mm,
it might be a gray
Yeah.
or something
mm,
like that. They aren't bright colors in jails, no,
mm,
and it's
mm,
there by design. Dr. Dimmer can tell you this. Dr. Dimmer, can you kind of touch on this a little bit? There is a reason for different things, like you said, the cinder blocks, the steel, the colors. It all has a psychological impact, does it?
Yes, and I mean it's designed for a specific reason because they've done studies. I'm not
Come on now.
too much privy in that area, but the reason why they design jails the way they're designed, they're not designed for reform. They're not designed
wow.
to rehabilitate. They're designed to keep you down. That's why the prison system, at least here in California, is one of the most profitable organizations in the state because no longer than a person gets out, they're right back in the system again, and they keep
Right back.
recycling themselves
Reentry.
Wow.
That's
over
it.
and
Hmm.
over again, and they don't get
Wow.
rehabilitated.
Uh-huh. And that's why they have
Wow.
private prisons now. Prisons for profit.
Yep.
Prisons for
Yep.
profit.
Yep.
Okay, and you think about it, it's
William,
a
can I jump
business.
in here?
Please jump in.
And you
Oh
know
my
what?
gosh.
I'm going to piggyback on I'm going to piggyback on Dr. Dimry because there was a time that when I was working in Chula Vista, that's about 5 miles from the Mexican border, and you had the drug cartels and the prisons and things like that. And I had the privilege of sitting with the warden. You know, they had the reentry program trying to resolve the issues, and I sat there and I said, "This is a joke. This is a total joke
Mm,
because they're trying to stop people from reentering, but yet." And then there was a gentleman there who was from the Marine Corps. He was carrying a Bible, but he's very, very bitter. But I was sitting there with my director, and they were talking about the reentry program, how to stop the process of the prisoners who've been released from coming right back right away. Well, here's the deal. You're going to sit up there and you're going to sit up there and tell me that you want to stop the reentry when you know you're making money off of every reentry. Anybody that goes in there, like Dr. Demery said, it is a money making thing. Okay. And they are not about to lose the money because if they let them go, they're going to have to find five more to put back in prison. You
Hmm.
understand? And that's how they operate. They give you the false sense of humility or false sense of caring, like they really care for these people who have misfortunes in their lives. When in actuality, they're just looking at their pockets being padded even more, and so that's why you have the innocents even thrown in, the lesser violent crimes that are being put in with the greater crimes. And if you look at the statistics, and look at the statistics. What is the bulk of our prisoners? What are their nationalities? Come on, let's
Mm.
be real.
Mm, we
Okay,
know
it's
they
still
ain't white.
it's still it's not right. And you talked about the buildings. It's still the slave atmosphere
Mm.
of keeping them. I saw a documentary, and I wish I wrote it down, where they had the prisons out there, way out in the countries, but the men worked the fields, just like in the cotton fields. Okay, working out there, that was their lot, and many of them were out there for lesser crimes. You see, maybe had a blunt or something like that, and you giving them 25, 30 years. Come on now.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
not right. You know that's not right. And then you have a young man who raped somebody and you let him out the door because he's a student and he's got good grades. Come on
Yeah.
here, because he's white. Be real. And so my thing is this: the the um the unlawful acts of those who say they're trying to reform you. That's a some of them. I'm not saying all of them, but most of it's a lie.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, and I think it's more
I
than
have no
than we
filter
know.
today, y'all. I'm sorry.
I
I
think
have
it's
no
more.
filter. None.
That's okay. You don't need one. I'm telling you right now. I think it's more than it's let on to be. I do believe that because again, it's that thing that I will tell you one thing, and then it's a wink and a nod. Hey, and
That
then we do
part. Come
something
on.
different. That's
Mm.
right. That's right. We're
It's
going to
the truth.
show that
It's
we
the
are
truth.
law and order, and we are fair and equal. Well,
Mm.
it depends on who we're talking to and what day it is. And
Well,
that's what.
you ought to listen to April Hopkins because she says there is a Pepto Bismol uh colored pink gel here in North Carolina. She
Uh huh.
said inside was pink and the uniforms were pink too. I
Uh huh.
have never heard of
Yep.
a Pepto Bismol pink
Ooh.
prison or gel. That is
Well,
Yes,
that's
amazing.
for demasculinity purposes. Listen, the colors,
that's
like you said,
right.
William, is for demasculizing them. It's for make
Wow.
That's
pink.
right.
Come on here. You know what
Wow.
goes on
Come on now.
inside the
I'm
prisons.
telling you,
Come on
and
here.
and
It's
April, thank you for that because
demasculizing our men.
that's exactly right. And Dr. Demery can tell you right out here, right next door to us in Arkansas. Was it? Is it El Payo? What's that racist sheriff's name? El Payo. And he was running
Which
for. He
one?
wanted to run for office too, but he was convicted of something a couple of
Are you
years
talking
ago.
about Arizona? Because Arkansas is nowhere close to California.
No, I said no. I'm talking Arkansas. I mean Arizona.
You
Arizona.
said Arkansas.
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
It's okay. I
I
was
He's
sitting there
so
misspoke.
like,
excited.
what? A
I'm
city called
very.
Calm down.
Arkansas
Calm
in
down.
California?
They, they both start with an A, don't it?
Right, right.
Yeah,
AR,
whatever.
in
Just
fact.
get it
Yeah,
right. Come
AR.
on.
ARK and ARI. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Arizona, I
We're
think
not
is what
giving you a pass, William. No, we're
No,
not
right.
giving you a pass now because they start with an
I,
A.
don't, I, don't, I don't need a pass because both of them racist anyway.
Well, I can't. I won't even try to argue against that. I just won't. I just
but
don't.
come on, Doctor
Hey,
Sims and Doctor Demery, who help me out? Is it El
it is.
Payo?
It
What was the
is.
name of that sheriff? Because what happened in his jail, he used to make the men wear pink underwear.
What?
Oh,
Really?
And think about what Dr. Harris, I mean Dr. Sims just said. is to take your masculinity away from
It's
you.
to
You hear me
demasculize me.
now?
It is.
Wow.
And then he
Oh,
probably had a little
absolutely.
funny in him too. Hello.
Uh,
Okay, I'm gonna be real. Come on.
hey, look. All right, no,
Ask
this
him
is the
what
truth
color
here.
underwear he was wearing.
Well, Miss
Now.
Hopkins
Absolutely.
doesn't agree. She said, "I don't agree with him." Sheriff, I think she said Hagee in Davidson County. So, maybe she's from the area. I know
There
that
is.
Well, she's from North Carolina.
North Carolina. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what
This
I
is
don't know what she.
Arizona. This is
Oh,
Arizona
okay,
I'm speaking of.
okay, okay. But I know
I'm
you're
gonna look
talking
it
about the
up.
one that Trump pardoned, if I'm
That's
not
right.
mistaken.
That's
Yeah,
exactly one.
I
That's
remember him. He the I think they were doing, was it racial profiling or
yeah.
something
Oh,
like that? I can't.
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely. And he
I
defied. Yep. And he defied a judge's order out here, which got
right,
him in a lot
right,
of trouble. Oh,
right.
absolutely. Oh,
It's Joe Arpaio.
You breaking
yes.
up again.
That's
I
his
couldn't hear
name.
you.
Joe
I'm
Arpaio.
what is wrong
El
with them
Payo.
people?
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. Great.
Arpaio.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and yep. So I do know about, like I said, in Richmond, Virginia, that area there. It is, and see, they had many different projects areas that had projects in Richmond, Virginia. And you know the thing about it,
Mm-hmm.
there was a common thread there. Those were
Mm,
all violent areas, and if you weren't from that area, you didn't want to go there. You didn't go
mm,
there, okay? So
mm,
this is a whole thing. Like we talk about conquer, separate and conquer, conquer and divide, or divide and conquer. These are the
mhm.
types of things we're talking about. If you got people fighting among themselves, then they can't fight you, can they? They can't even look at what
Right.
you are doing. You can do anything that you
Right.
want because the people aren't together. And so this is the whole idea. Well, see, and then a lot of people say, well, black people can't get together. Well, guess what, folks? That's not true.
Ooh,
Because there
that's
are
not
so many.
true.
That is not true. But see, what happens? You have so many stop gaps that have been put into place, and there's been misconceptions and lies that's been told, and you are told that you don't like each other, even if it's not true. And
Right,
we tend to believe
Brainwash.
right.
brainwashing, brainwashing. Moving right along. The Haiti community, Aaron mentioned that, I believe, HAYTI community in Durham, North Carolina.
Mhm,
Today, there's a singular group in Durham where a black man may get up in the morning, okay, from a mattress made by a black man, um, um, in a house which a black man built out of lumber, which a black man cut and planed. He may put on a suit where he bought at a colored haberdashery. That's what they used to call tailors at that time, or to buy clothing, and socks knit and at a colored mill. He may cook. Uh, let's see, is it victuals from a colored groceries? Okay, victuals. Okay. Oh,
food,
Vittles.
food,
The
vittles.
vittles.
just yeah, food.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
vittles.
vittles.
Okay.
Food. It's
Yeah,
country.
yeah, vittles. Okay. Yeah, fine. Okay.
Keep
Yeah.
it moving, just keep it moving, keep it
All right,
moving,
keep moving.
Keep
All
it
right.
moving.
keep it moving.
On his stove.
Ooh,
Come on. On a stove which black men fashion, he may earn his living working for colored men. He let's see, be sick in a colored hospital and buried from a colored church, and the Negro Insurance Society will pay his widow enough to keep his children in school. This is
Mm.
surely progress. W.E.B. Du Bois. That was written by him. Shortly after the Civil War,
Oh,
freedom
okay.
coming to Durham, freedmen coming to Durham, North Carolina, to work in tobacco warehouses began living on the southern edge of the city. James E. Shepard, Aaron McDuffie, Moore, John Merrick, and Charles Clinton Spalding. Spalding. Okay, I wonder if that name's going to come up again. Some of the founding fathers of the growing neighborhood um, named the area after Haiti. Now, keep in mind how it was spelled. This was Hayti, but they named it after Haiti. The
mhm,
first free, independent black people in the Western Hemisphere.
mm,
Oh, now, think about the state of Haiti right now, and think about what I just read. The
mhm,
first
I was going to
free,
ask you a question about that.
mhm.
Mm.
the first
Wow.
free, independent black republic in the Western Hemisphere. No wonder they can't get any help. Huh. Shepard Moore and Merrick went on to found the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. I knew about that, which became the
Mm-hmm.
richest black-owned company during that time, and still has excess of over 200 million. The men also
Wow.
started a land development company that built many of the homes and businesses in the area. In the early 1900s, 80 was the first black community to become fully self-sufficient. It built Lincoln Hospital,
Mm.
staffed by black doctors and nurses, as well as a theater, a
Mm.
library, hotel, over 200 businesses. North Carolina Central University. Okay. Oh, wow. Was founded on in Haiti in 1910 and became the first liberal arts HBCU to be state funded in 1925. Because blacks
Wow.
were still excluded from North Carolina political system, the community began to decline when the process of urban renewal divided the community with a freeway. I think you mentioned that. The community was eventually encompassed by Durham St. Joseph African Methodist Church, Episcopal Church, one of the country's oldest AME churches, founded in 1891, still stands as
Wow.
the Haiti Cultural Center. Wow. Dr. Sims.
I have a question, William. I have a question. I'm glad you asked me, okay? Because I have a question. I've been noticing some things. When the Haitians try to migrate over to the United States, they meet them in the water, okay? And they turn
Mm-hmm.
them around, or they meet them on the plane and they turn them around. But everything else can come on. Not, I shouldn't say thing. I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that. But every other culture, you look at the Mexican border. They are over there in groves, right? And they are
Right?
letting them in little by little. But the Haitians, and I noticed this in times past, they meet them on the boats because the Haitians are coming in over on boats. They meet them in the water and turn them around. Or if they're
Mm-hmm.
on airplanes, they make them get right back on the airplanes. They meet them there and they turn them around. Is it possibly because, and I'm just trying to ask in my mind, is it because first they're Afro Americans, okay? Second,
Mm-hmm.
because of their culture and their practices, which are very powerful. If you look at it in the Haitian culture, they're heavy in the voodoo and the witchcraft. You understand that, right? And then to
Mm-hmm.
let them over here. And another thing I was thinking about in my mind is it because they fear them because of the type of activities that these people are involved in. But mainly, I believe because of their black culture that they won't let them
Mm-hmm.
in. And then I think everything else follows. But I'm having an issue where you single that culture out, period.
Mm.
But you let
Mm-hmm.
everybody else come in here.
Uh-huh.
Even though and I was talking to my daughter, I said, even in the Hispanic race that's coming over here. You got drug lords, you got racists, you got
Mm-hmm.
sex traffickers. And I said, where are all these people going to stay? That's what I want to know. Where are they going to stay
Mm-hmm.
besides on the street? So that means crime rate is going to escalate at an all-time high. While you so busy focused on one culture, you got everybody else that has their issues as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
been a really problem with me.
Well, I tell you what, it could be a lot of factors, but I think that the number one thing that stood out to me when I was reading this is the fact that they were the first free blacks, right?
Ha,
Mm.
So
ha.
if your mentality is that you are of a free man or free woman and a free thinker, it's hard to be controlled. Can't is it? It is very
That's so
difficult for you
real.
to be controlled. And if you grew up in a culture
And them
like that,
Haitians will fight. Those Haitians will fight for their cause. I'm telling you, they don't hide and retreat like some of us do. I'm just being real,
Mm.
okay?
well,
They
guess
will
what?
come out with it because they're free.
Well,
Like you said, their mentality is free.
it's just exactly right. You have a free mentality. So no, bro, we can't use you here. Or we want people that's subservient. We want people that's gonna bow down. We want people that's gonna listen. No,
Yes.
we already got a
And
problem here.
Haitians are very aggressive. They are very aggressive people. Very aggressive.
Absolutely,
I've watched some documentaries on. They are aggressive and they believe what they believe and they stand on it and they will fight to the death for it.
absolutely, absolutely. And now, Dr. Demery, Haiti. What do you know about them? About the culture? about them? Whatever you know about them, and what's your take on that?
Well, Haiti was one of the major stop off places for the slave trade in the
Mm-hmm.
Northwest Passage. So that's why you have so many African Americans. I shouldn't say African Americans, they're not African Americans, Africans
Mhm.
heritage, African heritage in Haiti because it was one of the stop off points. And so they're very African in some ways, more African culturated than we are,
Mm.
because we've been here in the United States and we've been Americanized, for so long.
Boom.
And I think that's the main thing, that we have to consider. That it's very interesting why the Border Patrol, which is one of the most corrupt law enforcement organizations in the country, uh,
Wow.
was riding horses, whipping these people with
Oh.
whips and with stirrups, and driving them back across the border where they didn't do that with anybody else. So that
Mm-mm.
makes you go,
Yes.
what's going
Right,
on
right,
here?
right,
Yes.
Why is
right.
that?
Yes.
And it really raises your suspicion why
Mm.
they got singled out to be treated that way.
Right, 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 right.
Well, can I read this about what Trump said about Haitians? It's interesting. Okay. Trump said something about that Haitians, he equate Haitians with diseases.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it says, without evidence, and I'll read this, without evidence, the former president also claimed that dozens of countries are sending newly released prisoners to America. The former President Trump leaned into familiar racist language in an interview with Friends. Was it Sean Hannity on Fox News? And the former president, who reportedly considered another for office. Anyway, Trump claimed that without explanation or evidence that dozens of countries around the world are intentionally sending newly released prisoners in America. And they're saying that I hear that many of them are inundated with diseases and they're bringing them to our country. And he is referring to the Haitians. And he says, so we have hundreds of thousands of people flowing in from Haiti, he says. The former president exclaimed, Haiti has a tremendous AIDS problem. AIDS is a step beyond. AIDS is a real problem, a real bad problem. So he's equating that Trump continues to say, so hundreds and thousands of people are coming into our country, and if you look at the stats and you look at the numbers, if you look at at just take a look at what is happening in Haiti, a tremendous problem with AIDS as he continues the dialogue. Many of these people will probably have AIDS and they will be coming into our country. We don't do anything. If we don't do anything about it, we cannot allow them to come into our country.
But that is classic. And I'm just being honest. That's racism 101. That's white
For
supremacy
sure.
101. They
For
have,
sure.
and that's why critical race theory is so important, because it shows how racism is a part of every part of a society. And that means that
For sure.
what he just said, they teach that in medical schools. They teach that if a
Yes.
black person comes in,
Yes.
like for instance, black women, if a black woman were to come in with a reproductive issue, they teach them to immediately think sexually transmitted disease. That is literally what they have been taught to think in medical school. You and it's that type of racist thinking that this person is automatically diseased or sick physically just because they're not the same color as you. That's part of the problem. I mean, when you have somebody that supports the lie that people have lice, or that people don't like to take baths, or that we are the ones that get diseases that nobody else can get. Every doggone race has diseases that nobody, that's just endemic to that particular race. It happens. You got things that only white people can get, you got things only white males can get, you got things only black people seem to get. It's one of those things that happens. But they elevate it to a racist talking point. Speaking of racist talking points, we have another comment from April Hopkins, and she was backing it up with an article that she said. Apparently, she was talking about a different sheriff than William met. She sent an article that says sheriff's something jail stays pink, and I'm sorry, I've got something blocking it. Anyway, it's October 7th, 2003 by the Associated Press, Lexington, and it says the walls inside the Davidson County Jail will stay pink. Inmates still wear bright uniforms and televisions still aren't allowed despite last month's suspension of Sheriff Gerald Hagee. Almost all the jail's policies that help bring national exposure to Sheriff Hagee as America's toughest sheriff have escaped this recent series of changes made by the acting sheriff to appear more professional and rebuild. So apparently, she was saying she didn't agree about this particular sheriff. She said, yes, he was a Republican and he got locked up himself for other charges. Now, I think when it comes to the way people are treated in our prison system, it's a lot like what we're doing with, say, Haitian refugees. It's a lot like what we are doing in terms of what we were just talking about, medical assistance for people of color. There is a problem based in the root of the system that's called racism that's been there forever. For instance, you've got here in Arkansas, it made national news not too long ago, that one of the jails in Northwest Arkansas, they were given ivermectin to the prisoners instead of other treatments that we know work for coronavirus. I mean, hundreds
Wow.
of prisoners. This is a doctor administering these particular treatments to the inmates that were there. So you have racism as part of the prison system a lot, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion. A lot of the reason for that, in my opinion, is because it was another way to legally enslave African Americans, particularly African
Yes.
American men. When you traditionally, especially in back after the Civil War, when you imprison a person, well, guess what? They were not only having their freedom taken away from them again, but they lost the right to vote. They lost the right to bear arms. And then they were also forced into labor. So they farmed these people out just like they were doing before. It was almost back to the
Yes.
status quo for these people, and they could do it legally speaking.
Right. And get paid. Yeah. Get
Exactly,
paid
and they were
for it.
getting paid for it. So
Right.
I think that has a whole lot to do to this day with the way that our criminal justice system operates, because in a lot of jurisdictions you still have it where people lose the right to vote. When they become incarcerated, they lose the right to bear arms. When they become incarcerated, guess what? Those are two very fundamental things that we are arguing about right now, isn't it? Over and over and over again, we're arguing about voting rights. We're arguing about gun control, which has to do with the right to bear arms. And so, while the people on the right want to be able to do those things themselves, they don't want people of color to be able to do it. So they're making it harder
Right.
for people of color to be able to vote. And even if they can vote, they are now doing gerrymandering in all of the states that have Republican controlled legislatures to make sure that the Republican Party gets people voted into office where they would have had a closer race with a Democrat. So you need to pay close attention to your local legislatures to make sure that you know when it's time to vote and you show up to vote, because your votes are going to be crucial. April Hopkins says they did me like that because of my obese size. That's another area of discrimination. Um,
Yes, it is.
they people are discriminated against in a plethora of ways here in the United States, and size is another one of those ways that people are discriminated against. And I don't want us to forget, because we only have 30 minutes left. Well, less than 30 minutes, actually, 26 now, to bring the mask mandate question back on the table that William put up. I really do think a lot of this has to do with politics, but it's in some ways race is included in it too. I don't get me wrong, there are a whole lot of white people wearing masks. There really are. Um, but there are a lot of black people wearing masks too. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of black people who are not. There are a lot of black people who aren't getting vaccinated. At this particular point, folks, the vaccine has been out for almost a year. I don't know what else has to happen for you to feel comfortable to get a shot. But there have been enough, millions of guinea pigs all over the world getting these shots for you to know, which one that is safe and effective. Me personally, I like the Pfizer one. That's the one I got. Best of all of them, but I think that there are a lot of really good ones out there. But do you guys think that to wear a mask or to not wear a mask, that is just something along party lines, or is it also falling along a racial divide too? Reverend Demery, what do you think?
Well, I think it's definitely along party lines. I mean, without the shadow of a doubt, I think the Republicans have their own separate agenda
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to where the Democrats are. And I mean, to me, I just cannot for the life of me figure out why nobody wouldn't get vaccinated. I just don't understand it. I mean, there's some people out there that are pushing conspiracy theories and all of that. And much of that stuff is coming from Fox News. And it's already been proven, fact checked, 95% of the information that comes out of Fox News is a lie.
Yep.
And
Yep.
people have to rise above their own personal paranoia and realize, look, these are the facts. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
paranoia. This isn't a conspiracy theory. These are the facts. And all the
Mm-hmm.
major scientists are saying you need to get vaccinated. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
Republican Party and certain people within that are pushing not to have it done. And I just don't understand it. How you can be reasonable and rational and not go get your vaccine. I just don't understand it.
Mm. So what do you think, Dr. Sims? Do
Hmm.
you think it's just the mask mandate war? So because that's what it is. You got literally people fighting in some instances over, I mean, over wearing mask and not wearing mask. For instance, I've heard stories of people trying to physically remove mask from another person's face, a teacher as a matter of fact, and the parent had to be admonished and of course separated from the teacher because she was physically trying to pull the mask off the woman's face, saying that she couldn't understand what the woman was saying. So, do you think it's just a political issue, or does it too fall into the race divide? That there's a racism component to it.
Well, I think, in my views, and I've been watching things quite seriously in regards. I think it's all a lot of it's political.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also a process of control.
Mm-hmm.
And I really sometimes I sit there and I stay away from the news because it gets on my last nerve. Because they irritate me because they're spreading a lot of lies to cause
Mm-hmm.
confusion. There is a lot of confusion out there, and people are very unsure. I don't know what to believe sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to depend on the Lord because there's too many different stories
Right.
that are coming across.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust. Can I just be honest? I don't trust. I don't trust many of the white men. I don't trust some of my brothers and sisters. Let me be real, because sometimes they will give falsifications on stuff,
Yes.
and they make it look like it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, I know, and I reflect back to the Word of God, and I have
Amen.
to. We are living in the last day where these things have to come across.
Amen.
And I really believe, in my presumption of the Word of God, is that the spirit of control
Mm.
is out there, and it's a spirit of manipulation
Mm-hmm.
is out there. And my thing is this: I've told people, now I haven't got the shot. Let me be honest with you, because I suffer with other borderline issues, and it's going to take God to give me a letter. And I'm just going to be honest, and I don't want nobody get mad. And I could care less if they get mad because that's my decision.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I do is I do wear my mask. I think it's out there. People are out of order for trying to forcefully take masks from somebody's face.
Mm-hmm.
I go out there right now, if I don't have a mask on because it's the fall, my allergies just put me to bed because that's my issue.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is this: The rights to choose is being taken away. Period. Let's just face
Right.
facts. The rights to choose, they're trying to make people think that you are just absolutely crazy if you don't follow this, if you don't follow that. Well, no, 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 because now you're making the decisions for me, and I don't like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, that's making me think that I don't have the rationale to believe what I believe unless you give me something else that makes what you're trying to tell me
Right.
valid. Unless I get a better understanding, I'm the kind of person, lay the bottom line, lay the truth on the table, because there's too many mess ups going on. I saw something, and I have it on my Instagram, where this young lady was taking a shot. Now,
Mhm.
they didn't know that the camera was going to zoom in. I don't know if you all even seen it. There was no solution in the needle in the thing.
Mhm.
Okay. And he played like he was giving her a shot. And I said, well, what kind of foolishness is this? And she's clapping her hands like, oh, I got it. Now, well, wait a minute. I know I saw what I saw, okay?
Mm.
And see, these are the things that is tripping a lot of people up.
Right.
My thing is, people would just learn to be honest across the board. We wouldn't have this foolishness. But if you've got people who are saying this over here, somebody saying this over here, the doctors, some saying this over here, somebody saying this over here, they're talking about the FDA. They are creating confusion.
Mhm.
Amen.
They're doing it on purpose. And
Amen.
so therefore you've got these people who are walking being brainwashed. If you do this, I got a right to do what I'm going to do. I got a right to snatch it off your face. I got a right to do. You don't have a right to do nothing but wear the mask if you want to wear the mask. Okay?
Mhm.
Right.
And leave those who don't want to wear the mask, leave them alone.
Right.
Okay? But because of this picture that's been painted out there, that people are taking now, they're taking matters into their own hands,
Mhm.
and they are so out of order. If you walk up and take my mask off, you're gonna have something to pay. I'm just gonna be real. Look, can I just put that out there? You're gonna have
Mhm.
something to pay, and I'm not a violent person. But my thing is this: the person and the whole aim, William, you said a person has a right to choose. God has made me a free moral agent. I like proof in the pudding, and I talk to the Lord about everything.
Right.
And right
Mhm.
now, because there's so many lies and hypocrisy out
Mhm.
there, He's about the only one I can
Hey,
trust. You
he
understand
is.
what I'm
Amen.
saying?
Amen.
And the
Amen.
That's
Lord
right.
and the Lord said, put no confidence in flesh, period.
Right.
Because of the time that we're living in, and the demonic forces are at an all-time raging, and they're creating this havoc. It's being created, but they're doing it because a lot of folks they're ignorant to the devices. And we let's go biblical on this.
Mhm.
They're ignorant to devices.
Mhm.
So my thing is, okay, allow me that chance to choose. Don't back me in the corner and cuss me out because I haven't made my decision yet. You don't have a right to. You don't, because I have to make the choice. I have to be comfortable with it. Okay. Bottom line, it is what it is. And I'm understanding what everybody is talking about. Just like somebody has a right to choose their choice of whether they want to worship God or not, because He gave us a choice to do that, to make that decision. I cannot choke religion down nobody's throat. I cannot choke my views down nobody's throat. What a person, the Lord said, I'm the one who draws them, and I have to reflect back on the word of God. When I feel comfortable with it after I talk to my God, that's my decision, and that is my choice. That's the freedom that I walk in, period.
Well,
That's yeah.
I'm sorry,
Amen.
William. I'm
No, no, no.
sorry,
That's
William.
okay. That's okay. I'm glad you brought this up, and I've been listening to the panel, and I respect everyone on this panel. My and you're right. If someone, this is my take. I agree with Dr. Demery. I don't understand how come no one would aren't taking it. However, if you choose not to take it, that is your decision. I don't think anyone can make you. Now, with the exceptions of that employer, if you want that job and that employer says you're going to get vaccinated, otherwise you can't work here, then that is that decision, that company's decision. That's fine.
You still have to make the choice
If
to
the
do it,
government
though.
says, if the airline says you cannot fly on my airplane unless you are masked, then that's their business. They have a right to protect their business.
Of
Conversely,
course, I believe
if
that.
I choose to get vaccinated or if I choose to wear a mask, you better not come and try to snatch my mask off my face. Who gives you the
Amen.
right to do that? If you have the right not to wear one, I have the right to wear one. Now, see, this is the problem
Indeed.
with some of these knuckleheads, though. They are making their decisions and then trying to force their decision upon you. They don't have the
Right.
right to do
That's what I
that.
was trying to say.
You don't have a
Indeed.
right to do that.
Indeed.
If
Well,
these
but
parents
Indeed.
want to protect their children and walk their children to school and they want to masked up, it should be against the law for these people to be out there harassing these children. These
Indeed.
children are terrified.
mhm.
I
It's going on right here in California. I don't know about any part of the country,
It's
other
happening
part
everywhere. It's happening
happening
everywhere.
it
everywhere.
is.
They
They're
are
even
harassed.
harassing people in the hospitals. Hospital workers are being
That's
Well,
wrong.
harassed.
That's
then your butt
wrong.
needs to
That's
go to
wrong.
jail. Your butt needs to go to jail. Okay, stay in your lane. Your lane is that you won't be dumb and stupid. Then you stay dumb and stupid over there. You don't have
Well,
to. You
That's
can't
that's
impose that over here.
but see, that's my problem. That's my problem. I have to disagree because if we are going to adopt the anybody can do what anybody wants to do, whatever it is they want to do attitude, then we are going to turn healthcare, the public health, upside down on its head. We
Mhm.
have basically eradicated a lot of diseases like polio and measles and chickenpox because we have laws in place that mandate that people have to do certain things to protect the public health. For example, you have to go get your kids vaccinated unless you have some type of exception. There are very few people who should be qualifying for these exceptions. But I've had to get my kids vaccinated from mumps, rubella, measles, chickenpox, polio. I took those vaccines myself. Now, I
Mhm.
know that there's been an anti vax community out there who believes that a lot of that stuff is linked to autism. That's been disproven time and time again. But they have been making these same arguments that it's my choice, it's my body, it's my kid, it's my choice. And we have been telling them, no, you need to get your kid vaccinated or they can't come to school. So these kids
Okay.
are being homeschooled. The same thing applies here. If you are going to say that it's a my choice thing, then this is one of those can of worms that you're opening. It's going to have a snowball effect because now everybody who's been saying I don't want to get vaccinated, why should they get vaccinated? If you're saying I don't have to get this coronavirus vaccine, it needs to
that's
be
their choice.
mandated legally, just like all the other legally mandated ones, because this is a serious health threat. It's already mutated to the point where there's concern that it could evade vaccines. And guess what? If it keeps proliferating in the general community all over the planet, we probably will get a variant that is able to evade the vaccines, which means we're back to square one and the whole planet is at risk again. So I don't think this should be one of those things that we leave to choice. I think we should put it on the list of things that you must get vaccinated for
Mhm.
in order to protect everybody's health on this planet, not just a few. I hate to say ignorant people, but
You know,
if
well, that's what
if
they
you're
are.
listening to
Oh,
Q,
I'm not ignorant. I just don't
No, I
like
didn't
what
call
they're
you.
saying. And here's the deal. We no, I know you didn't. I'm just saying that now they have so many different strands of this virus. It just causes me concern and
mm,
alarm. Now, the reason why, and I really don't have to justify myself with anyone. My thing is until I am secure with this, because there's too much. I'm talking about the
you keep
doctors
breaking
who are
up, Sister
involved
Sims.
with
I
this.
can't hear you. I had a
Oh,
hard
I
time
am
hearing you the
so
first time around.
I am I am so sorry. Can you hear me better now? I hope.
I
Okay.
can hear you. I
I
can
don't
hear
know
you
what's
now. It's just you
I
keep
don't know what's
breaking
going
up.
on. Okay. And what I'm saying is this is that when I had all of my vaccinations too, all my children got vaccinated. I got all that.
Right.
Okay. But here's the deal with all of these new strands. Now, every time I turn around, there's a new strand of this COVID coming out. I'm like, what the heck?
Mm,
And like, you get the one shot. Now you got to get the booster. I'm like, wait. What's really going on here? Your
right.
Dr. Fauci. But Dr. Fauci, he's saying things, and I'm listening very attentively because here's the deal. My hesitation is the flu vaccine.
Mhm.
Okay. I got sick as a dog with the flu vaccine
Right.
in the bed for a month. And what is alarming to me, because I'm going to take care of me. You understand what I'm saying? And I
Right.
am going to try to ward off anything that is going to cause me to be in the bed sick. I don't want to be in the bed sick behind no vaccination. it affects different people different ways. Now, the new thing is this: you can still get it, and by testament,
Mhm.
you can still get the COVID after the
Mm.
vaccination. This is a testament, and this not coming from Fox News either. This is coming from people who have actually see everything is not being covered, everything is not being exposed. And like I said, I have to be comfortable now. Protecting your children going to school, amen, do that. But I am still going to make the conscious decision on which way I want to go for my life, amen. And so I'm not working, I'm retired, and that does not phase me. I can stay away from everybody until I make that conscious decision. Nobody's going to push me into that, because when my choices are taken, then you have dictatorship that is coming to the scene, period. And it is biblical and it's in Revelation. You have dictatorship. Before you know it, they're going to call you, tell you when you can go shopping. They're going to tell you when you can, how much you can pick up. Now we have to lay everything on the table and get a bottom line result. So this is my thinking. Until I get the right rationale for me, then that's where I'm headed.
You keep breaking up, but I think if what I heard you say the first time around, I think you said something about having allergies. My son has an allergy, so he
Really
don't take
bad.
the flu vaccine either because it has they put it in eggs, and one of the things on his list of
Yeah,
allergies
I
is
can't.
eggs, so he can't take it. And like I said, if there are a few people who have valid medical reasons or valid issues that keep them from being able to get vaccines. Sounds like you may
Right.
fall into that category due to
I
allergies,
do.
because some people who took the Pfizer vaccine had anaphylactic shock, and so they did say if you have allergies that you should, probably not take it, or consult your physician or that type of thing. So no, I wasn't meaning you were ignorant, so please don't take it that
No,
way.
I'm
What
just talking. I'm just
I
talking.
meant were the
Yeah.
people who are saying, well, I need some more evidence. I need to do my own research. It's like, okay, how many more millions of people have to take it and be fine and not die
Mm.
before you're comfortable with it? Because me personally, initially, I was going to wait till around this time of the year after it had been around to take it. But then the Delta variant showed up, and I'm like, okay, nah, we can't wait that long. And millions of
See,
people had it, had taken the shot. Millions of people had been fine. So I was like, okay, I feel comfortable that there's been a large enough guinea pig base that I'll go ahead and take it. But at this point, almost a year later, where you have vetted all the different vaccines in all the different countries. You vetted Moderna, you vetted Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer. We vetted Covax. We know better than to take the Russian vaccine. We know better than to take the Chinese vaccine. we know if you prone to blood clots, don't take Johnson and Johnson. I mean, you
come
know,
on.
so and
Uh-huh.
then the small
Woo.
risk of the myocarditis, the risk if you are a person with allergies who may have an allergic reaction to it. So a whole lot more than we knew, say in December of last year when the vaccine first rolled out, and you can make a much better informed choice. At this point, I think it boils down to political ideology versus common sense for the vast majority of people, unless you have people like Sister Sims who has allergies or that type of thing. I really do think it's more about,
Mhm.
I want to stick it to Biden. I want to make the Democrats look bad. I want to make Fauci look bad. And that is a
Mhm.
stupid reason to put your
Yeah,
life on the line, in
that's
my
right.
opinion.
Real
And
That's right.
before I forget,
that's right.
final shout out to Cassandra Williams Kelly. Thank you for tuning in and joining us.
Right, right. Thank you for that. No, no, a lot of comments. Now, a couple of things I have to say about this. Now, the flu vaccine has been out for a while. I've never taken it. Never
Really?
taken a flu vaccine at all. Okay. Um, when this coronavirus hit, I decided, and I waited for a while too. And I waited for a little while because I want to find out. Because see, a lot of us were a little skeptical. We were skeptics, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
black
Mm-hmm.
community. Anyway, the
Sure.
Tuskegee experiments and all these
Right.
other experiments
Right.
that's going on with us. But when I saw a bunch of white folks rushing to get it, and they hiding the vaccine, I said, "Oh, women, hold it, hold it, hold it."
And they were looking at us crazy. It was like, okay,
Yeah,
my aunt
I
went to
said, "Wait
get
a
it.
minute."
They were like, why are you here? You're not in this age group. But she was a teacher. So I mean, they really were
Wow.
hoarding this
They
one.
were getting, and governor in Florida, he's shipping it out to the richer communities for the rich
Mm,
elite and
yeah.
stuff like that. I said, uh-huh. So I
Right.
got mine. I got the Pfizer.
Yeah,
I
but
got two
prayerfully
shots.
they're
One.
giving us the right one, though. I'm just saying. I'm just
Okay,
praying.
I got the
Prayerfully they giving
Pfizer.
us the right one. Others, I'm like,
The same
hey,
one that Ann got. I got the Pfizer back in February and in March, and I'm definitely gonna get the booster. I
Mhm.
said I looked at it like this also, and made a very valuable point, and that is that when you go into school, every one of us that went to school, we had to be vaccinated,
Yeah.
whether polio, hepatitis, or whatever the
yes, of
disease
course,
is, or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
right.
We had to do that. Measles, mumps, chicken pox, and things of that nature, right?
Mhm,
And I thought about this
mhm.
too. I have children. I have grandchildren. I would rather go and take the vaccine and take my chance that way and not take it. I'm dead, and then you got a funeral to go to. I look at it
Right.
that way.
Right.
Like I said, the flu vaccine I never had. Now, I look at it this way. If the government wants to mandate vaccines for everybody, I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. Okay,
It's going to get to that
I'm
place
gonna tell you
anyway.
why.
I just
Let me
need
tell
a
you why.
handwriting on the world.
Let me tell you why I am. Because number one, uh, and you're right, Dr. Sims, that people have had the vaccine and they have still caught it. However, if you look at the percentage of people who caught it after vaccinated people who caught it and non-vaccinated people that caught it, the non-vaccinated people end up in the hospital and a lot of them dead. The ones that
Right.
were vaccinated, they did catch it, but they didn't die.
Most of them.
That's the overall majority. I
Mhm.
don't know about a very few cases, if any, of people who
Mhm.
were vaccinated that died behind it.
A
So
lot of them are
take on that.
immunocompromised
Now,
people who die, the ones who are already immunocompromised, and that's why they need a booster shot because
we
2
are
shots
boosters, yeah.
don't work
It's
for you.
and I'm gonna get that as soon as it's out. I'm gonna run and get it. I may not even drive. I'm gonna run and get it.
Oh
All right.
my goodness.
No,
You
I'm
know
Get in
serious
the
what?
about
car,
that.
William. Make sure you have your mask on if
Yeah,
you
Willie,
run.
don't
Yeah,
run. Yeah,
no,
right. Yeah, Willie,
and
don't
I tell you
run.
something, and I do
I want to
mask up
see
when I
that.
go out. So my thing about it is,
I do
if
too.
someone is still wants a lot more information, whatever it is, and those of you who says, okay, I'm not sure about the vaccine right now, but I'm not going to go out and infect anybody else. That's a
Mhm.
whole different
That's
person
what
than
I
someone.
do.
Right.
Well, hold it.
Right.
That's a whole different person than someone who's going out non-vaccinated and say, "No, I have a right to come in this restaurant, okay, or I have a right to come in here, or I have a right to go shopping here, even if you do have a mask
Without a
mandate
mask. These are people
without
that
Right.
a
not
mask."
wearing masks that doing
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
this.
No,
No,
no. You don't have a
my
right to
thing
do that.
is I'm cautious of who's around me, and I don't touch anybody. I make sure, and this is just one of the things that I do, and I'm just speaking about me personally. And there's others that do the same thing. We are cautious of who's around us. We got some that need to be wearing the mask and coughing and hacking and carrying on, and that's before
Absolutely.
all this stuff even came out.
Mhm.
They're not
That's right.
considerate. You have people that are just not considerate, and you have to everything you touch now, you got to clean. And I thought to myself, was nobody cleaning before the vaccine? I was curious. Okay, about the vaccine. Now everybody buying up all the clean stuff. Was nobody wiping their behind? Was
Right,
nobody
right,
cleaning their
right.
hands?
Yeah,
What's
that's
really
right.
going on here?
Really?
So I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that play a factor. And William, I'm with you on this. I wear a mask everywhere I go because of my condition.
Mhm.
It is an
Right.
issue. Like I said, I can go out, just go to my mail. I come home, my eyes are swollen and things. It's just something in the air. And I
Right.
told my son, I said, they spraying stuff in the air. I don't care what nobody say. There's chemtrails. It's all out there. It is what it is. And we got to deal with what's going on with this earth. Okay.
Mhm.
And so my thing is this: I don't want to be around anybody hacking and coughing. And my whole argument, if you got a problem with me wearing a mask, keep it moving.
Mm.
That's right.
Period. You don't have to say nothing to me. That is my choice. If I want to carry my hand sanitizer, I do that
Mhm.
anyway. I was doing it
Hmm.
before all of this foolishness.
Right.
I don't trust nobody. I kept my
Hmm.
children clean. Yes, they had the vaccinations and
Mhm.
stuff like that, but I kept my house clean, kept them clean. So I'm just puzzled by all of this. Everybody has an emergency to clean. My thing is, you should have been clean before all of
That's
this.
right. You know
Right,
that. That's
right,
right.
right.
And my thing is that these people run around screaming at these people and they're telling the parents, you are raping your children by making them wear a mask. Now, what kind of lunacy is that? Now,
That is
Dr.
so
Zimmer mentioned
wrong.
something
That's so
about,
wrong.
now, I'm going to ask the panel a question.
That's wrong.
And we already know the answer to this and the audience as well. Can you holler fire in a movie theater?
No, stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Can you say
Oh, you
bomb
know what?
on
If
it?
you have a fire in the movie theater, everybody's out.
If you can you say there's a bomb on this airplane? No, you can't do
No,
that. So
stop.
Is that not?
How is Fox News allowed to perpetrate the garbage that these vaccines are dangerous.
Well, that's
Because
one
they're
of the
being
big
fed by
questions.
political
They're
reasons.
pushing the envelope on
They're being
free
fed.
speech. They really are.
And women, hold it,
They're,
and just
they're,
right there. They're pushing the envelope on free speech. All right, but now,
but they're
but
being
but
fed
where
too,
does it cross
William.
the
They're being
line?
fed.
Hold it. But where's the line there? But when you already have people dying because of this misinformation, like you talked about, Dr. Sim, this disinformation that we already
Mhm.
talked about, where is the line crossed? Where is it come to the level of a hollowing bomb on an airplane or fire in a movie theater? Because you're killing people. You are killing people with this
Yeah.
misinformation. And how come and how can Fox News be allowed to perpetrate this garbage? I mean, not only about the vaccines, racism, they anything. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about January 6th, the rioters. Oh, it was just a walk in the park. All this. Now, this stuff. What? Where's the line? I
Well,
don't know. And where's the line?
well, I know we actually run out of time, but I'm gonna make it quick. I really do think that the line has already been crossed. I think it was
Come on.
crossed
Yeah.
back in
Wow.
2016, and we have basically emboldened those people with that ideology to continue down the path that they've been going on. So much so that Tucker Carlson did his whole show in a country that used to be democratic, but they have utilized the system to become an autocratic society. And he says America should become more like that particular country, and they have provided a footprint, so to speak. All of those types of things are basically, in my opinion, not just anti-American, not anti-democratic, but those are the types of words that give these people who are what you call it white
Hmm.
supremacists, the ones who want to
Hmm.
overthrow the government. I think it is bolstering them, giving them more and more ideas. But not only that, if you take a serious look at what's going on in the country, you'll see that they are putting this into practice
Hmm.
in a lot of these different Republican controlled areas. They are putting legal steps into place to do exactly what Trump wanted to do in the last election. They've already done it in Georgia. They've started the process of actually looking at the votes in the Georgia system. They already did a stupid recount in Arizona. They're trying to do it in other places. But on top of that, they are enacting laws so that the next time somebody wants to say the election was stolen, you need to look at it, they will have the legal mechanism in
Hmm.
place to do exactly what Trump wanted to be done. We have a
Mm.
serious problem. So I think what you have in terms of the Fox News is a symptom of a major cancer that's growing. And I'm not the only one that's saying it. The people who are experts
Hmm.
have been sounding the alarm for a long time. We are on the road to becoming an autocratic or dictatorship
Amazing.
society. So, and it's, in my opinion, it's not so much that racism it is the tipping point of this. It's politics that's the tipping
Hmm.
point.
It
The
is.
last time,
Hmm.
It
there
is.
was a civil war in the United States, it was because there was the institution of slavery, which had a lot to do with politics, but it had a lot to do with racism too. This time it's all political ideology. I
Hmm.
believe truly
Yep.
it'll be Republicans
Indeed.
against Americans,
Yeah, absolutely.
because that's what it is. But anyway,
And
that's
yep.
just
And
my
they use this.
opinion.
Yep. And they're using slavery as a tool, as a mechanism.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Eating as an Act of Worship Ministry show. Tell the audience real quick. You've got about 30 seconds to tell them all about it. And what's happening? Any classes coming up?
Tune in every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time, right here on Studio W Buzz for the Eating as an Active Worship Ministries radio show, hosted by me, Ann Woon Taylor, and William butts in from time to time too. but we we have a great show lined up for you every week, and we love to encourage you to stay on your health and fitness journey. So tune in every week. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for diet and exercise tips, and to follow us and stay tuned right after the show for the Teens Talk Truth radio show starting at 12 o'clock p.m., hosted by my sons, AJ and Alex Taylor, where they talk about hot topics affecting teens in our society today. Their next guest is going to be none other than Mrs. Sandra Demery. She's going to be talking to them
Hey,
about teen domestic violence. So you want to tune in on October 23rd for their interview of Sandra Demery.
wow, that would be great. And it's not
Nice,
that I like to butt
nice.
in. It's not that I butt in and just
Yes, it is.
solicit my brilliant advice. That's all it is.
Yes,
Uh,
it is. Yes, he does. He puts
Your nose just grew 2 inches.
okay. Oh God. Okay. 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 Doctor
Man,
Demery. Doctor Demery. Oh, the pastors of the Mentone Congregational Church in Mentone, California, sir. Any parting words? Your is your
You're
mic muted?
muted.
my
You're muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted.
Okay, how about now?
Great.
I think we need to really listen to what Ann said, because if we do not think that January 6th was not a coup attempt in this
Mm,
country, we're
Mm,
misinformed and we're not understanding what was
indeed.
going on. That was
Hmm.
actually a coup attempt. It
it,
was.
yes, it
Amen.
was.
And we have to
Mhm.
realize that this legal system can be used against us, like Ann was saying, and
Hmm.
we need
Yes,
to be wiser, we need to read more,
yes.
and we need to
Hmm.
discuss this again and realize,
Hmm.
that how close we were to having a coup in this country.
How close we
absolutely.
still
And
are.
along those lines, Doctor Demery, remember I think we even touched on it one time. And I was wondering. I think I even asked you the question, and we talked about how Trump was replacing some of the top brass in the Pentagon.
Hmm. Hmm.
Top brass in
Yes,
the
yes.
Pentagon. Now you want to say, well, why? Why would he want to do that? Everybody know he knows nothing about the military, so how could he make a good selection anyway? So, uh,
Look, he didn't mean to, but he did because they were blocking him, as it's been coming out
Indeed.
more and more about, those last few days and weeks in office. You had people who really put themselves out there in defense of democracy, even though they were Republicans. I think we have a serious problem still, as Reverend Demery said. It's not, in my opinion, it's not over.
yeah,
I think we still are on the cusp of something.
yeah, we
Indeed.
cannot turn our backs, And I tell you what, how stupid is this man, Mike Pence? They wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
And he was on the news just this past week saying that no, it's the media's fault. They're blowing this thing out of proportion. Well,
See, I
no.
knew.
And then think about this, Dr. Sims. You got a hangsman noose outside.
Hang Mike Pence.
Ooh,
That's what
Right
it
outside
means.
with your name on it.
how
My thing was,
delusional is he?
my thing was, where were the cameras when they were erecting this thing? I don't think
Mm.
they bought it like that. Somebody bought the lumber.
Right, right, right,
Somebody
right,
tried,
right. They had to construct it. Right, right, right,
And
right,
stage
right.
and stuff. Yes, I already
what's
know.
going
Oh my
on?
goodness.
Dr. Sims, your podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you also have
Yes,
classes.
sir. Yes, I do. I have a
Yes,
school. In fact,
please.
we're ending out a 5 week course, and it'll be ending out on next Saturday. They'll be doing their quiz. Amen. It's a
Amen.
school victory for higher learning, and we have students. I have 13 in the class, and we're opening up the arena for more. And we have professors, one who teaches at Enon. We have other skilled teachers who are on board. We have our staffing, which is awesome, and people are loving the class. We're in the process of defending, knowing how to defend your faith against all of the folks and stuff like that that
Mm,
got these types of religions that we talked about and things like that. That is not even biblical. So you got to be able to stand flat foot and defend what you believe. The
that's
next one
right.
we have God's Model Woman that's coming up, and the topics that we're going to be studying is help me to become a better me. And it has to deal with women and how we interact with those in their relationships, with their children, what have you, and the inner issues that many of us suffers, and then to us dealing with tricks, traps, and games, how to visualize and see what is going on in the world and what gets us caught up into these arenas. where Sandra Demery talks about it, and I too, about the abuse that we entertain or that we go through because we're not able to see clearly. And that's going to be happening on the 23rd of October. And it's going to be 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody's welcome aboard. Go over there and join the group because it is a private group and it's for ladies only because we talk about
Oh,
serious issues.
oh, you discriminating, huh? Okay, all right, I
Yes,
got
I
you.
am because I don't want you coming up in there because you know what? We give you some act right for real. Come on up in there if you want
Oh
to.
no. Oh, but I have. Okay, I
Come
understand.
on.
Yeah. Oh, I'll come in there. I don't have a problem with it.
I
I
know
really
you
don't.
will. I know I'm not
Yeah,
opening
you
the
might
doors
well
for you because
just
we will fill
invite
you up
me.
like chopped liver.
Bar him. Bar him.
Okay, give me a challenge.
I'm
I'll do it.
barring.
Yeah, but I tell you what. But
I
her
know you
podcast,
will.
ladies and gentlemen, her podcast, they are fire. If you're not ready for the fire, don't come in the kitchen. Cause I tuned in one day, Ann and Dr. Demery, and she was talking about, yeah, y'all out there doing a junkyard dog with daddy bow legs. I said, oh Lord.
Up with them long rings and them long robes and those big old rings. Sit your happy hips down and die to your flesh. That's what we talk about. That's how we deal with it. That's right. Be true to you and preach the gospel and live it now. Now come on with it. That's it.
Preach freedom.
So y'all know I ain't lying, boy. I tell you what. And that's on
But I
Tuesdays and
do want to
Thursdays.
put this disclaimer out there, William. I want to tell Dr. Demery, I am an ordained pastor. In case y'all don't know,
Praise the
because
Lord.
y'all just want to keep. Yeah, I am an ordained pastor for real.
Great,
Praise the
great.
Lord.
Okay,
I
got
am
my
glad to hear that because
credentials and all of that.
I am glad to hear that,
What?
Doctor Sims, because see that means there's still hope for you. All right,
No, you did not. No, no, you did not.
ladies and gentlemen.
No, you didn't.
You know what? Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I don't have time to let Doctor Sims respond.
No,
Right,
you just
right,
scared
right,
for me to
right,
respond. That's all.
right.
No, thank you so much. Hey, it's been a show. I can't believe that the time went by this quickly, but this is a very, and we only got through a couple of these, so we will revisit this at some time. And we're talking about the many, many, many Black Wall Streets. And we didn't even get into Bruce's Beach. I want to talk about that a little bit, but we're out of time. We'll come back
Oh
and
yeah.
revisit that. Perhaps we'll do this next week. We'll find out when Sister Dimmer will be on board, so we can continue our series on domestic violence and the devastating effects there are associated with it. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening. Uh, Kick back, enjoy, grab something to eat, and come back in about maybe 50 minutes or so because you know me on Sunday night is Sunday Night Gold with yours truly, WB, baby. Throwing it down right here with the baddest music anywhere around the globe. Hey, guys, gals, it's always a blast. And Dr. Demery, Dr. Sims, you guys have a great evening, and we will see you next week. How about that? All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Bye bye.
stay tuned for Studio W The Buzz, your global radio network. Studio W, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your listening pleasure.